Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we got a nice 8-game NBA slate. I will be looking at the FanDuel side of this as well, just giving you my quick picks on that. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? Hope everybody had a really good day yesterday. We did pretty awesome in college basketball and in NBA, so we're going to try to continue that with NBA today. The college basketball slate is a little bit wonkier today, so I'm probably going to be avoiding it for the most part. With that said, let's get into this NBA slate. So we have a pretty extensive injury report. For the Magic, Fultz is questionable. For the Hornets, Richards is questionable. Ball, Williams, Curry, and Martin are out. For the Celtics, Brown and Porzingis are both questionable. For the Cavaliers, Levert and Okoro are questionable. Mitchell, Struss, and Thompson are out. For the Pistons, Grimes is doubtful. For the Heat, Hero, Love, and Richardson are out. For the 76ers, Payne is questionable. Embiid, Melton, and Covington are out. For the Nets, Sharp is questionable. Cam Thomas is doubtful, and Ben Simmons is out. For the Hawks, Trae Young and Okongwu are out. For the Knicks, Brunson is questionable. Randall, OG, and Robinson are out. For the Pelicans, Daniels is out. For the Raptors, Barnes, Podol, and Brown are out. For the Spurs, Wemby is questionable. For the Rockets, Eason is out. For the Pacers, Nesmith is questionable. And for the Mavericks, Doncic and Cleaver are questionable. I should note that the late three games, which are the Hawks, the Spurs Houston game, Indiana and Dallas game, and then also the Raptors and the Raptors game here, which is at the uh, early part of this slate, are the three games that have the highest totals on the slate, and they are definitely going to be favorable from a fantasy perspective. However, some of these injury situations are definitely going to play into it today, especially as we get more information. So, my top overall play when it comes to core plays right now is Sam Merrill. Now, okay, you might be saying, why would I be so high on Sam Merrill? Well, with multiple guys out at his position for the Cavaliers with Mitchell and Struss both out, and then Levert being questionable as well as Okoro, he's going to be thrust into the starting lineup likely, and he's played very well when he's been over 20 minutes throughout the season. Most games that he plays over 20 minutes, he actually goes over 25 minutes. But I went through his entire season, and we found that there was 14 games that he played over 20 minutes. And in those 14 games, 13 of them he was over 5x and even a little bit higher. He's also nice and cheap at $4,100. Helps you pay up at other positions. He's a great value play right now. Obviously, some more value could open up that could make him being the second best or third best value play. But he's going to be a good value play pretty much regardless, unless Levert is ruled in, which would hurt him a little bit. I still think he gets over 20 minutes in this one though. Looking at Luka, now he is questionable. Obviously, if he were to miss, that would give a boost to Kyrie Irving, who I would definitely like. But right now, Luka is in a good position as an up-tempo game. He's been over 70 fantasy points in 5 of the last 6 games. Hard to ignore that upside. However, he is extremely expensive, and you do need to have a couple value plays to get him in the lineup. He's played very well throughout the season. Obviously, his price is super high. But he's a good spot and a good opportunity to have a good game if we can get that confirmation that he plays. If he doesn't play, then Kyrie Irving would replace him as a good value play, a good play offsetting that, as would Tim Hardaway. Then we'll look at Toronto here. We're going to look at Mr. Barrett. With Barnes out and Podol out, Barrett's going to be the top guy along with Quickly. Now, Barrett's price has come up a little bit, but he's still a decent price for his potential here. He's got 40 fantasy point upside, and I do like his potential. He does carry a little bit of risk, just because he's priced up some, and Toronto's could be in a kind of a difficult matchup here against the Pelicans, but I do think that Barrett has a lot of utility here. He is a GPP play, though. I really like Darius Garland. Again, this is a tough matchup against Boston. Boston's typically a good team, so it is a little bit risky here, but he's pretty fairly priced for this situation, and he should get plenty of minutes and a lot of usage as a result of the injuries to the Cavs. He actually has fared pretty well against Boston so far this season with the average of 35 fantasy points a game in the 2 games he's played against them. He is somewhat scoring dependent, but with the usage being in his favor, he should have some opportunity here. I do think that there could be some more value that opens up, though, that could knock him down a peg. But right now, he looks like a really good spot. Jalen Green is a high-risk boomer bust candidate today. He's had 2 straight games over 50 fantasy points, so he's been under 30 fantasy points in the 5 prior to it. And so, but he's been playing up and down throughout the season. This is a good matchup for them, and so I hope that he can get a good game going here. Looking at Alperen Sengun for Houston as well. I mean, Houston kind of just looks like this today. They've been up and down throughout the season. However, the Spurs are a pretty weak defensive team when it comes to against the big guys, and Sengun has had two really solid games against them already this season. He's been up and down recently. He's got a very low floor, high ceiling. He's definitely somewhat risky as his minutes have been a little bit influx, but I do think he's going to get all the minutes he can handle today, so he's worth a look. And then we'll look at Kelly Olynyk here for Toronto. Now, he should get more minutes as a result of the situation there. He also feels like a boomer bust play because his prices come up. But with his minutes up, with Podol out, he does feel somewhat risky, but he definitely has that high upside potential here. So, obviously, it's a tough matchup as well for Toronto. Honestly, this slate is pretty rough. I don't like a lot of it because I felt like most players are priced up today, which does happen sometimes, and it does make fantasy more difficult. But I do think that Sam Merrill is probably the safest play on the slate. And if you can afford to get up to Doncic, then that's definitely a way to go, assuming he does end up playing. As you can see, there's a lot of questionables and outs on the top side of this slate. So it's going to, we're going to have to wait and see some on some of that information. Looking over at FanDuel, I'm going to kind of go point guard, shooting guard, power forward, and, through each position here and just giving you my top options. So, Mythic for Charlotte is somebody that's somewhat interesting on FanDuel simply because there's not many options available at point guard, and he definitely has some utility here. I don't think that he's a great option, but he definitely is cheap and gives you some um, potential here. Sorry, I meant to put in Doncic. So Doncic is also in play at this position, though he does carry some risk as he is questionable. But he can play at this point guard position as well. And then quickly, he's going to get all the minutes he can handle today, and he's going to have some upside, though he is scoring. He does need to hit some threes to pay off here, and this is a tougher matchup for Toronto. But there's really just not much great options at point guard on FanDuel today, so those are the top three right now. Kyrie Irving could also be moved into that point guard situation, but he's also needed in the shooting guard position. So especially if Doncic was to be ruled out, he'd become my top tier option for point guards. Gary Trent Jr. also in play for Toronto. He has some potential today with the injury situation there, though he definitely carries some risk. Merrill is in play over here on FanDuel as well. However, his price is a little bit higher. But if Doncic was to get ruled out and you could move in Kyrie Irving to the point guard position, then that would definitely be some way to go. And then we do have a guy, Agagbi. Sorry, I'm butchering your name. He's started the last game and he did really solid. I expect his minutes to be up a little bit more now, but he definitely carries a lot of risk. But he does have some utility here on FanDuel if he gets into that starting lineup again. Moving to small forwards here, we'll look at Barrett. I think he's a great play on both sides, so he definitely carries some risk with the price being a little bit higher here. Looking at Ingram, New Orleans and Toronto should be a high scoring game. At least that's what Vegas thinks, and so I am inclined to like Ingram here quite a bit as he's a decent price here on FanDuel. I also like Jimmy Butler a lot, and he could also play the power forward position like Ingram can. And his price, while it's high, he's been playing very well lately, and he's got a very plus matchup against Detroit. Risk of potential blowout there would be the problem. And then Cam Johnson for Brooklyn, assuming that everybody for Brooklyn is still out, he's going to have some utility here on FanDuel. Looking over at the power forward position, I do like Kelly Olynyk over here as well, though he does carry that risk. He's a little bit more expensive. Zion Williamson is also in play here, though he does carry some risk. But he's got a good matchup there with the big guys out for Toronto. And then over at center, I think Bam Adebayo is probably the safest play at this position. But Sengun is a guy that you could utilize as an alternative at similar price. Though we're going to hope that some value opens up here. Obviously, guys like Levert being questionable could definitely come into play with stress out. And, I think there's some other options that could potentially open up through the game. Obviously, with the Cavaliers having some guys out, Garland could be potentially useful here as well, though he is a little bit overpriced here on FanDuel. So, with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.